What up, gang? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you. It's Sunday. It also means it's March 26th, 2023. I hope everyone's doing well today. Sabbath. I hope you're off work and enjoying the day with the family. But if not, I hope you're keeping it real and taking it easy. Hey, I want to get into a few schedule overviews for the 2023 college football season. And I'm going to try to do as many of these as I can. As is also in July and August, I'm going to do as many season prediction videos as I can. Last year, I think I did a handful. The year before, it was a handful. 3-4 years ago, I was doing, 10, 15 teams. But, time constraints have gotten to me a bit. But I want to do the important ones, the teams that I'm a fan of, obviously, the Gamecocks, and, our rivals and other teams that would play in the conference. So today I wanted to jump in feet first to our nemesis over in the dirty corner of the upstate of South Carolina here on the Clemson Tigers. Last year, a little bit, I guess, of a down year for Clemson. Once again, I know that last year felt like less than for the Tigers. They finished up with 3 losses, 11-3 on the season. I think you went. Losing, of course, on the road to Notre Dame. You lost in Clemson to my South Carolina Gamecocks, and then you lost in the Orange Bowl 31-14 to half of a Tennessee Volunteers team. So not a real good ending there to the season. I guess the only bright spot to that would be just a total domination of North Carolina in the ACC championship game, and a pretty good showing by your quarterback, who was your backup quarterback at the time, is now your starting quarterback and the face of your program, Cade Klubnik, against a North Carolina team that looked absolutely horrible a couple of weeks prior and losing at home to a terrible Georgia Tech team. But we'll get into North Carolina more at a later point in time. But I just want to go over this schedule for 2023, and I have it in the thumbnail, and y'all can follow along with it or do whatever you'd like to do there. I'm not picky in the way that I do these videos. September 4th is the season opener. Of course, you're on the road at Duke. Now, this is interesting in that you open the season on Labor Day, Monday night, for the second year in a row on the road. I know last year's game, so it was at a neutral site, Jackpot. It wasn't a neutral site. Georgia Tech plays one home game in the Mercedes-Benz Dome a year. I don't really know why they've got that agreement, but that's what they've got with the city of Atlanta, and that they played there last year. You didn't really have a real good showing against them, and you can't afford to go on the road here to Duke, which is a much better team than Georgia Tech, and have any kind of hangover from last season. Clemson's got to come out firing on all cylinders in this game. I expect Clemson to be a significant favorite. I don't know. The line may be out on it right now already. Those lines are kind of silly to me in March, but this will be a big game for Duke. They're, I'm sure, looking forward to this one. That place should be packed, and that'll be a tough matchup for Clemson. It's an interesting matchup, to say the least, on week 1. No real rest time there. You go September 9th, you're at home against Charleston Southern, a game where you should be able to play a lot of people and see a lot of new young faces, get some action there with them. Charleston Southern is an FCS team, and they're not a very good one at that. So expect Clemson to be a significant favorite and to just roll in that game. Week 3, a home game with Florida Atlantic. This is interesting. Tom Herman, Titty Bar Tom, comes to Clemson. He took over the Florida Atlantic program in the offseason after Willie Taggart was fired for like the 10th time from a Division I head coaching job. And I think this could be an interesting game. I think that Tom Herman will get Florida Atlantic on the path to the come up eventually. I expect Clemson to be a significant favorite in this game, and I don't expect you to have a whole lot of trouble with them. But it's still interesting. Tom Herman, kind of a little bit of a polarizing figure, I guess you'd say, over the past 5-6 years, coming to Clemson to take on the Tigers and Dabo. That's just kind of a funny matchup there, and it leads into what'll probably be your big. Well, not. Yeah, I mean, this is your biggest home game of the year, in my opinion, against Florida State. You do have a home game against Notre Dame a little bit later in the season. We'll talk about that. But the home game against Florida State is going to be huge. Week 4, I expect this game to be played in prime time. And, if both teams come into this game 4-0, it's going to be even bigger. Now, Clemson, or it's 3-0, excuse me. Clemson stands a much better chance of coming into it at 3-0 than Florida State does. Florida State opens up with LSU in Orlando. I'm not really sure that I'm sold on Florida State winning that game. However, if they do come in at 2-1 with a loss to LSU, even if it's a bad loss, that doesn't diminish their chances of winning the ACC one bit. Florida State has been talked up. They're really hyped up coming into 2023. Mike Norvell is recruited at a pretty high level down there, and he's also killed it in the transfer portal. I'm not going to take anything away from him there. I'm not going to mince words. I'm going to tell you this. I don't really like Mike Norvell. I don't like the Florida State program, and it's not hard to figure out why. They've taken some of our players over the past few years, and, I think by rather nefarious means. I don't like the way the Jaheim Bell situation played out at South Carolina. I think this was a guy who... I think he was a big attention seeker, and I think that the apple don't fall far from the tree in that situation. If you've watched his mom and his uncles and all that shit on Twitter, she's nothing but a big attention-seeking clown on social media, putting out just stupid shit, toxic shit all the time. Really downgrade the Gamecocks program, and I mean, losing him, yeah, he was a talent, but to that point, losing him was probably addition by subtraction, because I don't think that this was the best person to have in the locker room. Now you say, well, you're mad about it, Carolina Jack. Well, yeah, I am, because Shane Beavernilla never got a good chance to rehabilitate him, although he had been with him there for 2 years. So anyway, it is what it is. I don't like Florida State. I can honestly say that this is one of the few rare times that I kind of hope Clemson wins a game. I really hope they kick their ass right up around their shoulder blades and send them back to Tallahassee in half a body bag. That's just the way I feel about it, and get their overrated asses out. But at any rate, it will be a big game, and that Florida Atlantic game the week before, you probably would rather play Charleston Southern the week before that and have that flip-flopped a little bit, so you can get ready for this Florida State one, because the Florida Atlantic matchup is going to be a lot tougher than that Charleston Southern one is, so that's an interesting one there. Let's, assuming you win that one, you go on the road to Syracuse. That's a nighttime game, probably, at the JMA Wireless Dome in Syracuse. It's not the Carrier Dome anymore. Like kind of a trap game, I guess, for Clemson. You almost lost to Syracuse last year. You really should have lost to Syracuse last year, or the refs bailed you out in that one. Dino Babers has, exceeded expectations almost every year he's been there for the most part. I mean, I think that everyone just kind of pigeonholed Syracuse into last place in the ACC Atlantic, which we don't have the Atlantic and the Coastal anymore, but they pigeonholed them in there last year as last place, just for no real reason. Hadn't done a whole lot of research on them, and Syracuse started out like 6-0. Now they finished up, losing I think 5 of their last 6 games. Got blown out by Florida State. Got blown out a couple of other times. Blown out by Notre Dame. But this is an interesting spot here where you could potentially go into this game 4-0 and kind of be looking past it and get caught with your pants down against the Orange like you did a few years ago, or you could, get beat by Florida State, and it's very feasible that you could get beat by Florida State. They're going to snap that string at some point. I like them to snap it more in Tallahassee than I like them snapping it in Clemson. But you could lose to them, then go on the road and drop one to Syracuse. I mean, the Florida State loss could beat you twice. So you don't want to see that happen there, especially, with a young quarterback taking over, kind of a new coordinator. And we haven't talked too much about Garrett Riley. Look, I mean, I respect what the guy's done at some lower level schools. Yes, he did lead or help lead TCU to the national championship game. Hey, but I mean, the fact remains when he got to when he got to the national championship game, he put up 7 points. And that 7 points was the result of a long completion on a blown coverage by Georgia. I mean, they should have gotten shut out. I'm sorry. If you're good enough, you can make it to the national championship game, you should be scoring more than 7 points. I've heard it, from everywhere. I've heard it from all over the place from Clemson fans. Well, I try to tell them, your offensive coordinator scored 7 points in the national championship game. Well, that wasn't nobody beating Georgia that night. Well, maybe not beating them, but they should have competed with them, right? I mean, Ohio State scored more than that against Georgia. Mizzou scored more than that against Georgia. Kent State scored more than that against Georgia. But, on a big stage, I don't know. Now, of course, the guy's, he's been at SMU for a couple of years. And, before that, he was the running backs coach at East Carolina and Kansas. Woo! That's impressive. It really is, it may be just as or more so impressive than South Carolina's Dowell Loggins, who, has been known to be the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. So, I mean, we may both have shitty offensive coordinators. Who knows? Who'd have thunk it? But enough about that. The next week, you're at home against Wake Forest. Wake Forest loses Sam Hartman, and they've kind of I've heard him kind of get shoehorned a little bit by some analysts around the country and college football YouTubers. They're not going to be good this year. They don't have Sam Hartman back anymore, and, they're not going to be able to replace, an elite level talent like that. Look, Sam Hartman wasn't an elite level talent when Dave Clawson, got a hold of him. I mean, they built him up. He's done a great job there of building that program. He's made chicken salad out of chicken shit more often than not at Wake Forest. And really, in the past, I say, 5 to 8 years has gotten them to the spot where they are either a fringe top 25 team or, a top 25 team. A top 20. Last year, I think they were ranked. I think they got ranked as high as like number 12. So Wake Forest is they're not going to go away. And Dave Clawson is going to have himself a quarterback. Just because Sam Hartman's gone, it's not like they weren't prepared for that. The thing about that one is that Clemson just seems to have Wake Forest number. I don't know what it is. Even the really good Wake Forest teams just can't seem to get past the tater shits for whatever reason. I don't think they've beaten Clemson in like 15 years, I want to say. So that'll be a test there. I mean, you got a 3-game stretch there while, after Florida State, while these aren't, big name programs, they're still tough tests for you. You're off. You go on the road to Miami the next week. And I think maybe Clemson plays them every year. I think they're part of your permanent rotation. Maybe it's them, NC State, and Georgia Tech, or I'm not sure. Somebody have to let me know in the comment section below. I'm not that educated on the Taters, but this one's on the road in the Hard Rock Stadium. You totally decimated Miami last year. They should be improved this year to ADS, bringing in some good recruits, bringing some players in off the transfer portal. But yet, another team that, Clemson has kind of seemed to have their number as well when they play them. I remember Miami just a few years ago making it to the ACC championship game, playing Clemson. I think they had Malik Rozier as the quarterback, and that was under Mark Richt, and Clemson just spanked them, just spanked their little butts, purple and orange, and sent them back home. Next week, it doesn't get any easier on the road at NC State. This could potentially be a problem spot for you. NC State beat you up there 2 years ago. Last year, Clemson gave Devin Leary some trouble in that game. Clemson's defense played really well in that game. I was on vacation. That was my first day of vacation, or first night of vacation. I was laying in the bed in Pennsylvania watching that one on, and I was just really amazed at how well Clemson's defense was playing in that game. Probably their best performance of the year. I'm sure somebody will tell me there was one that was better, but that one, that was pretty impressive. So they'll be gunning for some revenge at home. You haven't played them. You played them a lot better in Clemson than you played them at Raleigh. So we'll see how that one goes. Got Notre Dame the next week. Notre Dame beat you last year, and a lot of people forget this is a non-conference game. So Clemson actually plays 2 Power 5 non-conference opponents this year, just like they did last year. Thank goodness for the rotating Notre Dame schedule. They have to play particular ACC teams every year. I think they have to play like 5 of them, or I'm sure Clemson would find another non-Power 5 team to play. Bring out we played Georgia the other year. We played Auburn one time. Shut up. Marcus Freeman's definitely got this team on the come up. New offensive coordinator there. A lot of talent coming in. People give Tommy Rees kind of a hard time. Look, Nick Saban is not going to hire an offensive coordinator who's just a total shutbag. He's not going to hire somebody with zero talent and zero coaching skills to be his offensive coordinator, especially right now. Not with a lot of questions surrounding his program, his future, the future of his program. Are they tanking? Are they whatever? He saw something in Tommy Rees that he likes, and extended an olive branch to him to come join his coaching staff. So, I'm sure he was there. He bridged the gap from Marcus Freeman from the Brian Kelly era to his era. Kind of helped him with that. And this will be another tough matchup for you. I know firsthand. I've seen Notre Dame. My Gamecocks lost to them in not so spectacular fashion, 45-38 in the Gator Bowl. And I mean, they're solid, and you guys know that as well. The offensive line is really good. They got a really good running game. That'll be a tough test for Clemson. We haven't talked about Clemson's defense a lot going into 2023. How's it going to look? You're losing some pieces over there, and this will be the second year removed with no Brent Venables. To me, Clemson's defense, didn't look as good last year. You had some holes there. You can say what you want to, but Wesley Goodwin is no Brent Venables. I mean, he's nowhere near to being that level of coach. So, we'll see what happens there on that side of the ball. But that's going to be another key to this 2023 season. Are you going to be able to make a return to the college football playoff or not? Are you going to win the ACC or not? Georgia Tech will be the opponent the next week in Death Valley. That's on November the 11th. Under Brent Key last year, Georgia Tech, a lot more success than they had under, what's his name? I'll think of it in a minute. Jeff Collins, that was fired there. Not mid-season, a little bit further than mid-season. Of course, we're talking about went on the road, beat North Carolina. Is he the one? They beat Virginia at home. Maybe they lost to Virginia. I don't know. I do know they went on the road, played Georgia, and they hung with them for a half. and that's something. I mean, I mean, they played Georgia better than TCU did with Garrett Riley, Mister All Everything offensive coordinator. And they didn't play you guys particularly terribly last year. We just couldn't really get anything going there. And Clemson, the score made the game look a lot more lopsided than what it really did. Georgia Tech and Clemson used to kind of go neck and neck every year. Had a really good thing going on. It's kind of fallen off in recent years. Tech has just been atrocious, and Clemson's been pretty high level. I think a lot of us would like to see the team from the ATL come back up and seriously challenging the ACC. They're a ways off from doing that. And I expect you to be a significant favorite in this game, given how the season plays out. If we play out kind of like we think it will, I would think Clemson would be, a double-digit 14, 17, 20, maybe 21-point favorite in this game. I don't know at that point. I got North Carolina coming in the next week. Of course, I expect this North Carolina team to be about what they've been every year. Explosive offensively, terrible defensively. Drake May, Heisman Trophy candidate, so they say. We'll find out week 1. My Gamecocks are playing them in the Bank of America Stadium, and we're like a 1.5-point underdog. And I can kind of get that with some of the losses. They're probably looking at South Carolina with some of the losses we've had in the secondary and thinking that North Carolina is going to be able to exploit that. And, hey, they may do just that. They may do just that. So I think it's a fair line to throw out there. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think South Carolina should be able to get some pressure on them. And but we're talking about Clemson here, and it's not a prediction video, and I'm kind of waylaying myself over into that. But North Carolina will be trying to get a little bit of a measure of revenge. You embarrassed them in the ACC championship game, which given the fact that yes, their defense is terrible, their offense is really, really good though. And your defense looked real suspect against the Gamecocks the week before, and they weren't able to kind of duplicate the success the Gamecocks had against you. So North Carolina will be out for some kind of measure of a little something here. You got to also think too, Mac Brown. The man is getting up there. I mean, he's getting up there. To me, he doesn't look great on the sidelines. He doesn't look 100% enthused on the sidelines and 100% healthy. I gotta wonder if 2023 might be the last year for old Smack Brown in the baby blue and white until he hangs it up. So that's an interesting note there too. It could be his last game against the Taters in his coaching career. We'll have to see. But North Carolina comes to Clemson. And then, of course, on Saturday, November 25th, the annual showdown against the team that knocked you off 31-30 this past season up in Clemson, South Carolina Gamecocks. Of course, it'll be a big game there. South Carolina, I got to have a load of confidence from that win, despite the fact that a lot of the folks that were involved in that one aren't around anymore. The culture's changing in Columbia. The culture is shifting more towards a positive vibe under Shane Beamer. And, any Clemson fan who denies that South Carolina is on the come up, even if we had lost that game to Clemson last year, even if we'd lost it by 10, 12 points, if they still denied that Shane Beamer has South Carolina on the come up, they're just being dumb and not being truthful with themselves or whoever they're having a conversation with. So I expect that one to be another good game. I expect South Carolina to come in with a decent record. We'll talk about that more when prediction time comes. Like I said, I'm not anywhere close to being able to make any kind of prediction video on these teams. People still have opportunities to get injured in spring practice. We still have the transfer portal that's going to open up for another half month or so. I expect South Carolina to add some more pieces from that transfer portal. So it's nowhere near time to make any kind of prediction video on the 2023 season for any of these teams. But let me know, down in the comments section below, what do you think of Clemson's 2023 schedule? Is it easier than last year's? Is it harder? What do you see as potential trap games there? Where do you see there's a potential to get upset? Do you think Miami's going to be better than they were last year and pose a threat? You think Georgia Tech is going to be better than pose a threat? What do you think about Florida Atlantic playing Clemson? I think that's just kind of a fascinating matchup, just given who's coaching the Florida Atlantic Owls right now. And what do you think about Duke taking them on in the first game of the season there? An ACC team that you don't play very often, and I think that Mike Elko should have gotten some consideration last year for Coach of the Year in the ACC. Maybe he did. I don't even know who the Coach of the Year was, but he definitely did enough to earn his stripes there, taking over just an absolutely terrible team that David Cutcliffe had dropped in his lap as a first-time head coach, and he did a really good job. So big shout out there to Mike Elko and his team. I think they're going to improve. And what do you guys think about that one? So one more little thing I want to do here real quick. When I see them, I want to post them, and I want to talk about them. So we're going to talk about Twitter dumbasses every time we get a chance. As you know, Carolina Jackpot, I spend a fair amount of time on Twitter bantering back and forth with fans of other teams in our conference or Clemson fans, or sometimes banter back and forth with Gamecock fans and get into it with them a little bit. There's an interaction I had yesterday with a Tennessee fan, and let's take a look at this. So I was going back and forth a little bit yesterday with this Tennessee man, Real Dill at Go Vols 2022, and we were talking about how South Carolina had lost 4 games last year in the league to terrible teams, in his opinion. Told us that we'd lost some of the worst teams in the SEC in Florida, Mizzou, and Archie, which I responded to in kind. That Archie wasn't one of the worst teams in the SEC when we lost to them, which is a fact. And then he, lets me know, because they were overrated in preseason and you played them like week 2. When the season's over, you gauge your opponents on how they finished the season. Archie finished 7-6 and 5th in the West. Okay, thanks a lot for the history lesson. So I will say this, that that type of banter is not, it's not just, Tennessee fans who do that crap. It's all fan bases. They like to, when the injury thing is something that benefits them in an argument, they're going to use it. When it's something that's not beneficial, they're going to use it against you. This same idiot in another thread chose to, use the old, Jeremy Banks didn't make the trip to Columbia. He's our starting linebacker, and that was a big reason why we lost to y'all, because, he's the one that calls for the different formations that he sees, blah, 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 and we didn't have any tape on y'all changing up y'all events, blah, 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 blah. You're going to see these kinds of excuses everywhere. That kind of stuff only, it goes both ways. It's very easy to see from the eye test that Arkansas was a much better team at the first of the season with a healthy secondary. But they just were playing on like a third-string secondary by the middle of the season. Okay, and not to mention their quarterback was injured for a lot of the season. So get on out of here with that garbage. That's really all I got to say about that one. So, and I'm a nice guy, and I'll always give you a going away present. So, for Mr. Real Dill, of course, I will give you the present of the snowman. And if you aren't familiar with what the snowman is, that's when we we splooge in the face and stick a carrot in your mouth. So there you go. snowman for you in March, Mr. Real Deal. That's about all I got to say about that, guys. I'm going to get on out of here. Hit the thumbs up button on this video if you like it. Leave a comment in the comment section below, especially if you're a Clemson fan. Let me know what you think about the 2023 schedule and whether there's potential for, any kind of trip ups or just anything you got to say there. You can catch Carolina Jackpot on the live show on Wednesday and Sunday nights. We do it at 9 p.m. You can also catch me on the socials, YouTube. I'm hanging out at Carolina Jackpot, on Twitter, at Hall_Kale, and over on TikTok. You don't stop. Girl, you make me feel so good. You can find me at Carolina Jackpot. I'll see you guys later. Peace. I'm out of here. And go Gamecocks. Woo! And go Coach Beamer.